Hi, this is Becky Shulo with Art is an Advantage. And this week, or in this week's video, I'm going to do something new. And hopefully, this is going to be the first, possibly in a series. And that is, I'm going to share a talk that I recorded with someone a few weeks ago that I think you are going to find a lot of value in. And I am recording the introduction to the talk separately because honestly, when we had our meeting, it was the first time I'd recorded a session like that. And I didn't feel like my introduction to the guest was great. So I'd like to introduce you to Kiffanie Stahle. She is an attorney who specializes in advising artists and creative business owners on legal issues. She teaches about all different legal topics on her website, The Artist's JD. I can tell you that I've taken one of her courses and I find her information very easy to follow. She gives very specific instructions that are great for the average layperson like myself. Now, in this talk, she is covering the top 5 legal must-dos for your art or creative business. And I promise you, this is great information. And Kiffanie's story is very interesting, how she started the artist JD, as well as how she runs her business or where she works from. So I'll let her tell you about that. But without further ado, I'm going to clip in the or edit in here the talk, and I will put all the resources for Kiffanie, or all the links that you need that we discuss, of course, in the notes below. So thanks, and I hope you enjoy this. How'd you get started with it?
Yeah, so many years ago, I worked as a wildlife biologist. So before I went to law school, I was a wildlife biologist, and I basically lived out of my backpack around in the Sierra Nevadas. Not so different than my current lifestyle of living in my RV, puttering up and down the
Yes,
western
I didn't
United
mention
States.
that. So yeah, please
Yes,
share about that.
bookends of my life. And kind of puttered around and was taking photographs, and I was showing my work professionally. I was kind of using Sacramento as home base at that point in time, and kind of became the de facto lawyer, non-lawyer of the group. And knew some lawyers, and they were, so I would go to them with the questions that artists would have about, like, how do I deal with this? And they would give me an answer, and then I would be like, okay, wait, let me tell you a story and see if my story actually is the same principle that you're just trying to convey to me in your very legal jargon. So I would tell the attorney back the story, and they'd be like, yes, you got it. And so then I would go tell the artist. And I had a friend at the time who was a non-practicing lawyer, and he was like, "You're the best lawyer I've like. You just know how to do this." And so I took the LSATs, I applied to law school, and I got a full ride scholarship. And I was like, "Okay, the universe is telling me that this is my
Yeah.
next step." And so went to law school, and then my very first legal internship was with California Lawyers for the Arts. And it's a the Lawyers for the Arts is kind of a nationwide group of nonprofits that's a great resource for creatives. Most of them have what's called referral panels, where artists can call and, for a very low cost, tell the referral panel what their problem is, and then they
Okay.
pair them with a lawyer who specializes in that. And then you get a consultation with that lawyer. And so my job as the law student, was to listen to the artist problem, then go to the database and find a handful of attorneys who might be able to help them and say, like, do you want to help this person? And ended up connecting with some really great attorneys, one of whom I worked with for a lot of years, and kind of did that process. And then he ended up being like, well, if there's a case that you think is cool, like, you can come to my office and do the consultation with me and help me work on it. And so just really fell in love. One of the things that was challenging about my previous career is, when you work in the environmental realm, it felt like sometimes that you were taking one step forward and three steps back. Like we would save this beautiful place, but then everywhere around it had gotten developed. Or we would do this cool, really cool project, but there was so much other that wasn't the same nearby. Whereas I felt like when I was helping artists, it was like I made one part of their life so much better. I
Mm.
removed this huge ball of stress so that they could then go out and create beautiful things. And it was
Yeah.
really satisfying. So I just kept doing it. And it kind of merged, all my friends with my job. And it was just like, it was a great fit and was something that I really enjoyed. And so, 15 years later, this is still what I'm doing.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you've just brought together this great platform, which I will share the link with everybody so that they can, when we distribute this, so they can definitely see your site. So, but that's a great story, and I love that you're in your RV, which I know a lot of people dream about, like
Yes,
that
yes,
life, but
since
you're doing it.
2020, I've been puttering around with my dog, mostly in the Western United States, just hanging out in beautiful places and working. So it's a
That's
pretty
great.
pretty nice life.
Story. So, okay, well, how about let's talk about the legal stuff. So I'm an artist. I'm like, oh my gosh, like what do I need to do? Because I feel like most artists get into the, it's the creating and where am I going to sell this stuff and what's my business model or what's my marketing plan? And then the legal stuff kind of gets, I find that it gets, you think about it like when you need something like, oh, someone's asking me to sign an agreement or, so when it's kind of like, or I need a tax ID or that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah. So, I say that your first legal project is actually not a legal project. And that's to kind of figure out the goals and to kind of what I call like a rough business plan, not like the formal SBA kind of business
mhm,
plans, but the like, how am I, what am I going to offer? How am I going to serve people? What, marketing kind of things, like how am I going to, what partners am I going to use?
mhm,
But I also like you to answer non-traditional questions like what does success look like? What does my ideal day look like? Like what do I want my life to be like? Because it's really easy when you're running a business to get caught up in the shiny object syndrome of like, oh, this new thing came out, or oh, somebody else
yes,
is doing this and it's really
yes,
successful and that. But like, if it's not going to help you get towards where you want your business to go, then it's a complete waste of your time.
right.
And the same goes true for legal projects of like, if it's not going to help you solve the problem, the thing where you're trying to take your business, then getting a trademark or registering your copyrights or getting an LLC, getting any of those kinds of things is a waste of your time.
Mhm,
And so I say that the first legal project is actually not a legal one of just getting really clear on where you want to take your business. Because a big old long legal checklist is going to waste your time and resources if those things are never going to overlap with what you're going to do in your business.
okay.
Um,
I love that. Yeah,
and
it makes sense.
so, I am not about giving you busy work or homework. Like I've been running creative businesses, I've been running my law firm and this for 15 years. Like
Mhm,
I know how many balls we all have in the air. I know how many never-ending to-do lists and ideas that we have. And so, I'm not going to put things on your plate if it's not going to help you go the right place. Um, so I think that that's your first kind of thing that you should do is kind of get really clear on that so
okay.
that you can evaluate things, both shiny marketing objects, new
Mhm,
platforms, new everything
yeah,
based on this is where I want to take my
yeah.
business.
Well, and
Um,
I really love that too because it's funny. I'm like, she sounds like me, but I've never like put the legal part in. But that's basically anytime I start a presentation or sit down with an artist, I'm like, okay, we need to know what you want to do because that is it. There's so many different directions you can go in, and you're going to see your artist friend over here having success doing this, and this one's doing that, but you need to do, and I'm looking at it from the marketing perspective, but it's really the same, like that exercise, so that because your time is important, and you don't want to be spending money and resources on things that aren't so this is perfect. And again, I
Yeah.
just never really thought of it from a legal standpoint, but it makes
Yeah,
sense.
so, like, and it fits in every
Yeah.
aspect of your business, like,
Yep.
once you know where you wanna go, like,
Right.
that's our kind of North Star of, like,
Yep.
that's where we're going to evaluate everything. Is it can help us get closer or take us off track? And, legal projects do the same thing. Legal
Yep.
projects can waste time and resources if they're not there's no point in paying a lawyer to create a custom artwork contract if you don't wanna do custom artwork.
Right. Exactly.
you know but if you download a checklist of
Yeah.
like artists legal tasks, then
Yes.
probably there's going to be a custom artwork contract.
Yeah.
And so that being said, there are a handful of legal tasks that no matter what you're doing, you're going to have to accomplish. And the first one is making sure that you're the right legal type. So there are kind of four legal types your business can be: a sole proprietorship, a partnership, an LLC, or a corporation. And sole proprietorship and partnership are kind of very similar. They're things that you just automatically become as soon as you decide you want to run your business. Sole proprietorship means you're doing it by yourself, and partnership means you're doing it with one or more friends. And so those are just the automatic. As soon as you say, I'm running this business, automatically under the law, you are those.
Mhm.
Um, an LLC or a corporation, you have to go to your state and take action and pay money to become. And the reason people do that is because an LLC and a corporation is going to put a fence between your personal life and your business life. So if anything goes wrong, it stays on its own side of the fence. Um, and so that's kind of how we know it's time to make that investment. In some states, like now I'm based out of Utah, and in Utah, it's $20 a year for me to have an LLC.
Okay.
It's very cheap.
Mhm.
But I am a licensed attorney in California, and in California, an LLC has an 800 minimum
Yeah.
tax that's due every year, regardless of if you
Wow.
make money or not. Um, and so, the cost of an LLC varies widely state to
Yep.
state. Massachusetts is another expensive state. It's, I think, $520 a year for an LLC in
Okay. Wow.
Massachusetts. Um, but if you think of that money as a insurance policy
Yeah.
of if anything goes wrong, then my things in my family are protected.
Yes.
As we talked about, I was a wildlife biologist before, so I like to use the analogy of a mama bear. A mama bear will fight to the death to protect her cubs. And so if you have things in your personal life that you would fight to the death to protect so that your business never impacted them, then that's when it's time to start thinking about maybe we should put up that fence
Yeah.
and think of the whatever, fee your state or tax your
Mhm.
state incurs as the insurance
Yeah.
policy of it's giving me the peace of mind that I'm not going to have to fight to the death to make sure the savings account that we're putting aside for our kids' college or these kinds of things are off the table if anything were to go wrong in my
Okay.
business. So yeah, so there's a lot of questions you can answer, but generally that mama bear one kind of either stirs something up inside of you or is like,
No.
I'm okay at this point.
Yeah.
And so that kind of is a good starting point for
Okay.
making that decision.
Okay. So,
Um, So yeah, so that's number one that
okay.
everybody's going to need to do is make sure that you're set up as the right legal type, that a sole
Okay.
proprietorship or a partnership still makes sense for you, or that really you should become an LLC. Corporations, pretty rare that we do corporations for creative businesses, just because it's
Yeah.
really overkill. We don't
Right.
need all
Right.
of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, so then the second one that most people need to do is permits and licenses. Most locations, even if you're an online only business, are going to want you to have a business license from your city or county. But also, as artists, you're selling physical things. And so you're going to need our dreaded sales tax
Yes.
certificates,
Right.
and all of those kinds of things. And sales tax is, as we were talking about before we started recording, sales tax is like this head banging
Mhm.
thing that is can be super frustrating.
Yeah.
Um, and so sales tax, you might need some sales tax certificates. If people come to your home, you might need a home occupancy
Mhm.
permit. Another one that you might need is what's called a DBA, an FBN, fictitious
Okay.
business name,
Yep.
doing business as statement. A lot of artists get to skip this one because you do business under your own
Your
name.
name.
So
Okay.
like if you're doing business under your own name, you don't need one. What it really is functioning as is a legal nickname. So like when I first started the Artist JD, I wasn't an LLC yet because I didn't know what this business was going to
Mm-hmm.
do anything, if I was going to take off, whatever. And so I was Kiffanie Stahle doing business as the Artist
Okay.
JD. So I had a DBA then. Now that I'm an LLC and the LLC's name is the Artist JD LLC, I don't need a DBA. So anytime your last name isn't included in the business name, anytime you infer that there are multiple business owners, like if it were Staley and Co., then I would
Okay.
need a DBA for that.
Okay.
And anytime your LLC name isn't the same as your business name, you need a
Okay.
DBA.
Okay.
Um,
Um,
but those are kind of the most common permits and licenses that people are going to need.
okay. And back to just the taxes for a second. Can you explain, because the question I get, so somebody that is selling, so I'm in Pennsylvania. If I'm selling in Pennsylvania, I need a sales tax. I have a client that he had at one point had a home in PA, home in Maryland, selling out of both locations, but also selling online. So it's,
Yeah. So sales tax before 2018 was very easy.
yeah.
Since 2018, sales tax has gotten very complicated.
Mhm.
And there's even more layers of complication. So like if you primarily sell on a site like Etsy, Etsy is considered what's called a marketplace under sales tax laws. And so Etsy is required to collect and remit that
Okay.
sales tax for you. So anytime the sale takes place through Etsy, Etsy's collecting and remitting and saying, we collected sales tax for this person and remitting it to that state for you. So they're collecting sales tax across all 50 states, remitting sales tax in all 50 states on your behalf. If you have a like a Shopify site or selling on your own, or like you're at an in-person show,
Mhm.
then you're required to collect the sales tax and
Yes.
remit it to the state.
Okay.
Now, every state has different thresholds. So what used to be the requirement was you had to have a physical presence in that state. So
Okay.
like the customer who had a home in Pennsylvania and a home in Maryland, he would be required to collect sales tax for both of those states because he had physical presences in
Yes.
those states. But if he made a sale to someone in California, he wouldn't be required to collect it.
Right.
So since 2018, the standard is physical presence and or significant economic ties.
Okay.
And significant economic ties, the number varies a little bit, but usually we use $100,000 of sales to that particular state or
Okay.
100 transactions to that particular state
Okay.
as crossing you over that threshold.
Okay.
Again, the United States, every state can't adopt the same rule. We have
Right.
to be like, we're our own state. We have our own rules.
Yeah.
So the numbers vary,
Yeah.
but that's the general. So if you have your own e-commerce platform, you do it through Shopify, you do it through, WooCommerce, something like
Mhm.
that, then you will be responsible for keeping track of sales to each individual state, both volume and dollar amount, so that you know when you cross over that threshold
Okay.
and have to start.
Okay.
So anywhere you have physical ties, you automatically have to do it. But
Okay.
then once you cross over, and that's where I don't know if you're familiar with Janet of Paper and Spark, that's where she shines. She
Okay.
has seller spreadsheets
Okay.
that artists and creatives, and
Okay.
she has hands down some of the best customer service I've ever experienced.
Okay. Now I'm gonna
I've
have
had
to
people
check
in my
that out.
community that have broken her spreadsheets and she's fixed them for them.
Okay.
Like they
I
send
will
her the
check that.
file and she fixes it.
Okay.
So yeah, so
Paper
she has
and
great
Spark.
Paper and Spark. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And she has great seller spreadsheets that help you track your sales volume and both volume and revenue dollar
Okay.
amounts to each state so that you know when you're approaching those thresholds.
Okay.
And like some states it's a rolling 12 months, some states it's a calendar year. Again, like there's different
Yeah.
rules for different states. But yeah, but that is definitely something that you need to keep in mind.
Okay.
And again, that physical tie. So if you're doing an in-person show in California, but you don't live there, then you're always going to need a temporary permit
Yes.
to collect sales
Yeah.
tax when you're doing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's good. Okay. So we've covered
So we've got the right business type, we've got our permits and licenses,
sales tax.
then yeah, and that includes our sales tax
Yeah.
permits.
Okay.
Then number 3 is like a legal-ish task. We're going to get our EIN number from the IRS so that your social security number is protected, and you're going
Okay.
to get a business bank account. And I'm sure this is something you preach as well. We need business bank accounts so that we know if our business is making money
Yeah.
or not.
Separate. Separate.
We need to have that separation so that we can start to find things out. And there are so many online banks now that have free or very low cost with low minimums
Yeah.
business checking accounts. Once you become an LLC, this becomes a legal requirement
Yeah.
that you have, the LLC's money has to be in the LLC's name.
Yeah.
So the sooner we can start to get into those habits, the better it is in the long run. The sooner we can develop those muscles, the easier it's going to be when it's like this could be a reason that I'm punching holes in your fence and meaning that your LLC means nothing.
Yeah. So if someone's running as a sole proprietorship, you think they would still get an EIN? Because I'm
Oh
thinking
yes. Yep.
okay. Because I know some artists that are still using their socials on that.
Yeah. And again, there's a couple of reasons I usually recommend it.
Okay.
One, layer of identity protection.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Just kind of, that kind of thing. 2, it makes you look more professional.
Yeah.
Like when you get, a W-9 from somebody and it's got a social security number on there, it plants something unconsciously in my brain that maybe you're not really running a business. Businesses numbers are formatted different than social security numbers.
Okay.
2 digits and 7 digits. So there's also that of like, it's one free, less than 5-minute thing that you can do.
Right. That's just like go to your go online.
You go straight to the IRS's website.
Yeah.
So here's a little trick on this. If you search EIN number instantly, you're going to get some like sponsored ads up top that are going to tell you pay $49 and we'll give you your EIN instantly. If you go to the IRS's website, request your EIN, and at the end, tell them to give it to you as a PDF letter, you will get it immediately on the spot.
Oh, okay.
For free.
Great.
Don't fall for the scam of pay $49 for it.
Okay.
IRS will give it to you for free.
Okay.
And it takes less than 5 minutes.
Wow. Okay. Good. Good advice.
So yeah, so I would say everybody should have an EIN number and everybody should have a business bank account.
Okay.
So those 2 financial tasks are the next one. The 4th one is business liability insurance. Most of us work out of our homes, and your renters and homeowners insurance policy has an exception that says only a certain amount or nothing that you use for your business is protected by your policy. And so, if you've got 10 paintings in your house and your house burns down or you have a flood or there's a natural disaster and they say, hey, too bad, so sad, we're not covering those paintings. That's a, thing. If you are a commercial artist where you are creating content for clients, then your clients are going to make you guarantee that what you create is original. And if someone comes to your client and says, hey, this infringes on our copyright, that contract with your client is probably going to say that you indemnify your client, which means that you stand in your client's shoes and will defend that lawsuit. And so business liability insurance often also includes what's called intellectual property coverage, which says all you have to do is call your insurance company and pay your deductible, and the insurance company will hire the attorneys for you. And so it's just for most street artist-based business, most product-based businesses, that you're not doing that kind of content creation for clients. There are services like ACT insurance that I think for like $200 a year, you can get a policy. Like they're not super
Okay.
expensive. They do show only policies for just if you want
Mhm.
policies for shows. Those people who travel around and do a lot of in-person shows, one kind of insurance you might want to consider is what's called inland marine insurance.
Oh.
And what inland marine insurance does is, say you're driving from your house in Pennsylvania where you live to a show in Chicago, and you stop overnight and have to stay somewhere, and all your inventory is in, the utility
Mhm.
trailer or the trunk of your car. Someone breaks in and steals stuff or ruins stuff. Inland marine insurance covers your products while they're being transported from one place.
Wow. And I know somebody, this is crazy, but no, it wasn't the artist, but this could easily happen to an artist. I know somebody that was moving from across the country. They had someone driving stuff in like one of those trailers, and
Yeah.
something caught on fire. The entire trailer caught on fire, and there were some really beautiful pieces of original art that burned
Yeah.
in the trailer.
Hmm.
So, I mean, like I said, in that case, it wasn't the artist, but it could easily have been.
Yeah. And
So
so, so
that would
like,
cover that, like, kind of a
yep.
situation? Okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hmm. Wow, things
So,
you just don't think of.
yeah. So, and this is also why I generally recommend working with insurance brokers over
Mhm.
insurance agents.
Okay.
The difference between a broker and an agent is that a broker can work with any insurance
Mhm.
company and you're their client, whereas an agent works for an insurance company and the insurance company is their client.
Right, okay.
So, like a State Farm agent can only offer you State Farm policies, whereas an insurance broker can go out and say, my client, based on my conversation with my client, they need these three kinds of coverage. I can go to every insurance company and some of them that don't even have agents and find the best policy for the best price for
Yeah,
them.
that's
Yes, you pay them a commission for their work to do that.
right,
But in general, what you pay, even when you add the commission on top,
yeah,
is less than what you're going to
right.
pay
You're
someone
getting good
else.
and you're getting good
So
advice.
yeah, and then the final one that we haven't talked about is having a simple contract. That's number 5. Like if you're doing commission work, then having a simple contract is really important.
Mhm.
I like to talk about contracts as a gift. Contracts are a gift you give to those you work with to say, like, I'm a professional. This is how I know our relationship will go really smoothly. This is what I need from you. This is what you are going to get from me. It makes sure everybody's on the same page by literally getting everybody on the same page
Okay.
so that we don't have two different ideas in our heads about what the outcome is going to be.
Mhm.
Um, I recently I'm going to redo my books. And so last week I hired an illustrator to do the new covers of the books.
Okay.
And like I had some questions for her right up front. And she's like, I've never had clients ask me. And I
Yeah,
was like, well, that's because you're dealing with an attorney. Like,
yeah,
I
right.
want to know the license right up front. And most people would, just like not even think about what the license is going to
Right.
be. That's something that I know is very important and I want to
Mhm.
make sure. But often as a professional, especially maybe someone who's doing custom artwork or commissions or those kinds of things, you might be the first person they've ever worked with to do this kind of thing. So
Yeah,
they might not know what the process is like. And so it's your job to help hold their hand through the process. And the more information you can give them in an easy to digest manner, the less time you're going to spend throughout the whole process
right.
answering their questions. Like if they know that from the date they pay you the deposit, they're not going to see initial sketches for 2 weeks, they're not going to bug you
Right.
until week 3.
Yeah,
Whereas if you don't tell them and they're super excited about the present they're getting for grandma, like 3 days later, they might be like, so when am I going to
yeah,
get my sketches? And then
right.
3 days later, oh, when am I going to get my sketches? And so like, if you can just tell them like, this is what the process looks like, they're going to know, and it's going to provide a whole lot more ease on both of you, and less back and forth. And contracts don't have to be long and formal to be valid. They can be an email exchange. It can be like, it was really awesome talking to you today about the commission I'm going to do for
Right.
grandma's birthday. Here's the bullet of what we discussed, the things that need to happen. If you agree that that's what we talked about, hit reply and say yes. That's a valid contract I can enforce in court once they hit reply and say yes.
Okay, that's great then, because
Doesn't
you
have to
gotta just
be
outline it, yeah,
long, stuffed with legal jargon.
yeah,
So
okay,
yeah, so those are your 5 must-do
yeah,
tasks that pretty much everybody's going to need to do. And then once you're done with that, then we go back to that plan that you've created of what you want
okay,
your business to look like. And we see, okay, your goal is launch an online course. Okay, let's do legal tasks associated with launching an online course. Everything else doesn't need to be cared about. It's your goal, develop, a good commission revenue stream. Okay, then we want a really solid commission contract for you.
yes,
We
okay,
don't need to worry about anything else. Like what is your goal? And then what projects are associated with that? And that's all you need to do. Like you don't need to do this long 20
yeah,
page creative business legal checklist you downloaded. You only need to do those things that are going to help you reach your goals.
that's great advice. It makes it more, it makes it feel like not as daunting when you think of it that way. Like just, what do I need to do next?
Do
What am
those
I gonna,
must-dos,
yeah,
then do what's associated with it, whatever your goal, and is going to help you get closer to your dream business.
perfect.
Everything else, all fluff.
Forget about it, yeah.
Yeah.
So back to your website and your
Mhm.
resources, can you tell us, I'm an artist, okay, tell me what I can get, because I know that I don't want to misrepresent you. Tell me what is on your website, because I know you have some things, like I said, I saw a program on there that I'm like, okay, I can benefit from taking her course. Can you explain like what you offer? And I
Yeah,
know,
so I would say step number 1 would be to go to nextlegalstep.com.
okay,
And there I'm going to have you go through a quiz, a video quiz that's going to help you figure out what your best next legal step is based on where you are in your business, what kind of revenue you're generating in your business, all of those kinds of things that will really help you narrow down. This is the step that's going to help me make progress right now.
okay,
Um, Once you do that quiz and it gets emailed to me, thanks to Video Ask, I'm going to look at it and I'm going to send you a personalized video reply within 2 business days that kind of says, based on what you answered, maybe here's some additional resources and where you should have, what result you should have gotten in the quiz.
okay,
And so, for some people, what it's going to be, the recommendation is like, I'm going to recommend my book because, you really need to get that, you don't have a business plan. You don't have some of those kinds of foundational things in place.
okay,
You do need to then do those 5 legal steps,
okay,
and that's going to walk you through. Some people are going to already have those things done. And so they might get recommended to join my membership community because we're talking about accomplishing those personalized legal task
okay,
things and things like privacy policy in terms of service and writing contracts and those kinds of things that are specific to your goal. So I say that that's your best entry point,
okay.
because what everybody needs is different. Like we're all on unique,
Mhm.
that's the beauty of running a business, is we're all on our unique journeys. And
Yeah.
that's why I say that that plan is step number 1, is because I can't help you get the right resources if I don't know, just like you will say with your clients, if I
Yeah,
don't know where you're going, I'm
right.
just going to send you in 50 directions and you're never going to make any
Yeah.
progress.
Okay, so nextlegalstep.com.
.com.
Okay,
Nextlegalstep.com.
not
Yes.
plural. Okay, good. Okay, I'll make sure I put that in the notes. So, well, that was great. That
Yeah.
was like I learned a lot today. So, in a very short
Good.
time with you. So that was like I said, even stuff I'm like, oh, I need to go tighten up some things here. So, really
Yeah.
helpful and yeah, I appreciate your time for sure.
No problem.
All
But yeah,
right.
but I think that, like most things, like anytime okay, like I've recently started to dive into like running meta ads, and like anytime you approach something new in your business,
Yes.
it's overwhelming and it's hard.
Yeah.
And so I always like to remind myself of something my friend Tiffany Hahn told me many, many years ago when I was having coffee with her and I was super overwhelmed by something. She was like, "Okay, Kiffanie, go stand up right now." We're like in the middle of the coffee shop. She's like, "Go stand up." She's like, "Look at your feet. Okay, what's the baby teeny step you can take next that will help
Yes.
you get closer to that thing?" Okay. Now you're going to do that. Then when you're done with that, you're going to stand back up and look at your feet again and say, what's the next baby step?
Yes. Yep.
And so you just have to kind of think of it in that way of like, when things get overwhelming, like what's the teeny tiny step I can take that's going to get me one, even if it's just 5 minutes closer, what can I do based
Yep.
on, and anything you learn in business, you're going to have those moments. There are things that are going to come easy and things that are going to come hard. And they're different for all of us. So
Okay, so everybody go to, I think anybody, I mean, I really feel like it doesn't matter where you are with your business. Everyone should go to nextlegalsteps.com, take the quiz. You're going to see what's missing. You're going to get a nice response from Kiffanie. So I would do it.
yeah.
I probably will do it. She'll be like, what is she?
Becky
I
might be
really,
getting an email or video response
you'll be
tomorrow.
like, didn't I talk to you enough today? No.
No.
But so